Good day, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Mustard Seeds. Our guest today is Lynn Joannis and Soleil Joannis, who is a service dog and part of the journey of this remarkable woman who, like so many mothers today, has, how should I say, she's risen to the challenge of things unexpected and done it in ways that she probably never could have thought she was capable of before it all started. But as with so many of them, we learn that lesson that what you do for love pays off in the most remarkable ways. Lynn is a woman I met about 1.5 years ago, and she had just received this beautiful little bundle of fur back from a training center where things had gone desperately wrong, and she really couldn't understand why things had turned so difficult when she had tried so hard to make everything right for her daughter Miranda. And you'll see from the story, you'll understand why everything had to happen that way. So Lynn, thank you for being here and sharing your story.
Glad to be here.
Let's go back to the beginning. You have 3 children, I believe?
I have 3 children. 2 are living with me now.
And the younger one is Miranda.
Yes. Who's 8.
She's 8.
Yes.
And she is the one who has really a dual diagnosis,
Yeah.
I believe.
When she was born, when they did the baby screening, it came back with really bad results. She was at zero. She had no white blood cells left.
No white blood cells, and there's a name for that condition.
Yeah, and 6 months, they wanted to wait at least 6 months to see if it would go up by it themselves, and unfortunately, it didn't happen this way. They had to do a bone marrow to find out what's wrong, and it takes about, what I can remember, it takes about a month for the test to come back, and unfortunately, she came back with a diagnosis with Castleman syndrome. Her body cannot produce any white blood cells at all.
All right.
She looks perfectly normal, but she has nothing to fight. No armies to fight whatever her body can't.
So she can't fight any kind of infection?
Nothing.
No viral infection? I understand bacterial infections are okay. Not even that in her case.
Anything that if she has a fever, I have to bring her to the hospital.
So a very delicate child.
Yes.
And then a little while later, you realized that there was yet another condition that this poor child was struggling with.
I've noticed she was progressing very well, and I'm doing some activities with her, and she she stopped talking to me, looking at me, and kind of puzzled on the whole situation. And a friend of mine told me that it looks like she has autism. And I really did not want to see that because I know that autism would conflict with the first one. She wouldn't understand what's going on. So I was really, really praying that this would not happen. Unfortunately, that was not the case. She was diagnosed with autism, and it's a journey. She had lots of meltdowns, and I came upon on YouTube a video of service dogs, and they were talking about service dogs for autism. So yes, okay, that could be, that will help her, because I did at least a couple of weeks of searching and more knowledge, and I thought, hey, this is it. And I called a few organizations. They said no, and I kept on going. Someone's going to say yes, and I did have a place where I got Soleil. Unfortunately, he did not come back.
Okay, we're going to interrupt. We're going to get to that in a moment. But first thing, I want to say the type of, because we all know that autism, there's been in the news so much, that autism is on a spectrum. And where Miranda is pretty high on the spectrum. She's prone to fits.
Yes.
And to
massive meltdowns.
Massive meltdowns, so she can hurt herself, bruise herself, cut herself, which doesn't go well with her condition.
No.
Of no immunity.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So there are many programs for children with autism to help them educate them and communicate better. But for their safety, I don't know of any that are there, and that's where the service dogs are so important, because that is their main function, is the child's safety, right?
He does help her with when we go out. She used to bolt. That was a huge safety issue, and since he's been back, it's been great. I could actually walk with my daughter, and that's a good feeling to have, not to worry that she would just take off. And that's why he has a handle on him to hold on to, and you know, the bonding is getting more stronger and stronger. He still has work to be done now, but again, it's not this organization. It was an organization before. I just want to mention that. And
no, obviously not. You wouldn't be working with an organization that.
No, so it's awesome. And
so you had to. That was one of the things that, because Miranda tends to bolt and run away and perhaps lose her concentration on the present moment, some organizations recommend that the service dog be tethered to the child, that the child be attached to the dog.
I have seen that, but someone did tell me that the dog has to be extremely trained for that.
Okay.
I've seen, even like on YouTube's videos of autism service dogs with the child tethered to the dog, but it has the halty. So I don't know, it has to be very, very trained for that.
So there's two schools of thought, and there's a lot of steps in between.
Yeah, but when the first time when he came back home after, according to the training he was supposed to have, that he didn't have, she was tethered to Soleil, her service dog, and it wasn't trained. And that was just very upsetting, because my daughter could have been in danger.
Of course. Now, let's get back to that. You made the decision that, based on everything that you'd read online, that a service dog would be a tremendous asset to Miranda, who at the time was perhaps 5 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So here's this little 5-year-old, and she's a pretty small twerp of a kid, right? She's pretty small, but she can run fast.
Definitely fast.
And you needed all of those things they say about service dogs for autism, about the safety, the protection, the control, the source of affection for the child, where they can interact with them and cuddle them. And
because dogs do sense that.
Yeah. And when you take them into a new environment, instead of focusing on all the strange things in the environment, it's hard for anyone, but for an autistic child,
it's a little bit more
particularly hard. So they have their constant, they have their grounding.
I usually tell her, pet Soleil, tell him he's a good boy, and get her to concentrate on Soleil. So
right, and it works.
It does work, because with her is every sound in the room, she hears it, and it's kind of like an overload, and that's when the meltdown begins.
Right. And that meltdown can begin when Mummy tells her that it's time to leave now.
Yes.
It can be just about anything.
Yes. Yeah.
So you decide that your daughter will be helped with a service dog, and it could possibly even save her life. And you start researching different organizations that provide service dogs, and you get turned down everywhere until you get to this one organization, whose name we don't want to mention, simply because, not that they don't deserve it for what they did, but because Lynn is still worried, as a single mother, that somehow they're going to come back and bite her. And this is not right. I mean, the urge to get out there.
No.
I'm not going to say it, but the urge to get out there and expose this organization is pretty strong, because this little creature, who's not such a little creature now, the first time I saw him, he had just been back for a day, and he peed on the kitchen floor. He was so terrified, and that is not
the organization he was with before.
That is not what a service dog should do after 11 months of training.
Definitely not.
Okay, let's go back.
So this
here.
organization took over, and
this organization did fine.
Yes.
Actually, it's not the organization; it's one person from that organization.
Yes.
Because that's important. That organization does not the person does not work with an organization that trains service dogs for autism. It trains service dogs for people with PTSD. Okay. Now, Soleil, you got at the recommendation of this first place, and you had to get the dog from the breeder that they recommended, and you had to come up with the funds, which you did, which is not easy for anybody, let alone for somebody living the way you do on very limited income. So you find this beautiful little bundle of white, and your daughter falls in love with it.
Yes.
And you have Soleil for how long before he had to go away for training?
I believe about, he was with us for at least 3 months.
3 months.
And he did not come back the same way.
He did not come back the same way, and your daughter had probably a lot of sadness because he left to go for this training.
Yes.
Okay.
It was a very long wait for her.
Yes.
Very long wait.
So Soleil comes back, and he's definitely not service dog material.
Definitely not.
But, and this is where the story changes, you learn about this opportunity to get a service dog for a child with autism, something that was organized by the local LCBO in a part of Orleans, one of the LCBOs. And this brought you in touch with somebody who actually does train service dogs.
That knows what they're doing.
Knows what they're doing. And gives you hope. Gives you hope.
Definitely.
Because what I saw a few days after this boy was returned to you was, I would have lost hope. I would have said, time, money, effort, dreams, out the window.
But I didn't look at it that way.
You're a better woman than me, and I know that. You are a better woman than me in many ways, and you are a better woman because not only did you do it for the love of Miranda, but you did it for the love of this little guy who deserved better. Okay, so tell us what the last year and a half have been all about.
Definitely a lot of training.
Yeah?
The first part that I needed to teach him again to walk beside me. He couldn't even walk beside me at all.
No.
He was just a wild one.
Yeah.
No house manners, just stepped on me. He didn't know any better, unfortunately.
He dirtied in the house?
No.
He didn't have accidents? Okay,
no.
There's that.
But it's mostly going over us.
He was uncomfortable with people.
Well, he was fine with us, but when it came to people coming in the house or stuff like that, he's much better than in the house. I guess in the house it's mostly I'm protecting my domain.
Yes.
Right? He's also a pet when he doesn't have his vest on.
Right.
So.
But you started training him.
Yes, I started training him.
Which is a daily job.
Definitely every day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
So
and
essentially when a mother or a parent is training a dog for a child with autism, it's the parent that has to do the work of the training.
Yeah, because I know what she needs.
That's right.
With the help of the organization.
Okay, so that's always a difficult part, is making that transition of the dog to the child.
Yes, and I am working on it because I think he's not quite ready yet, but whatever he is ready to do, I'm transferring it over to her.
Yeah.
All the training continues.
Okay. So I interrupted you earlier when you were starting to tell us about the changes in Miranda that have occurred since Soleil has rejoined the family and learned some of his service dog duties.
I know when Miranda has meltdowns, sometimes he'll stay, but we're working on him staying with her, and some days he does wonderfully. He stays.
Yes.
And I show him how to do deep pressure. I say legs, and he would usually lie down on her legs to keep her grounded. And it helps her with the pressure on the legs, so that really helps.
Okay.
And sometimes you just needs a cuddle. Like she just lies down on him and, pets him, and
Oh,
it's amazing. Just plays with the wool and just play with the ears, and it's their bonding, and that's really good to see that they're together. It's nice to see that.
so
And
you're seeing the rewards. And,
Yes.
But you're still doing the work.
I'm still doing the work, and
Every
it's
day.
paying off. But now I'm on the right track.
You
Whoops.
are on the right track. Okay, you're excused. Now, you as a child already had an affinity for animals.
Yeah.
So this didn't come as a total surprise to you that you were able to do this, right?
Definitely not. I just have. But also, I'm doing this for my daughter.
Yes.
And that's what's giving me all that energy, and as I usually call it, the go-go juice.
The go-go juice. All right.
It keeps on going, and I want her to feel, unfortunately, kids with autism, they don't have friends coming over. She doesn't have phone calls. And it hurts.
Of course.
Because things are not going to be the same.
Of course. So she has a dog, she has a mum who cares for her, and she has a brother who's also part of this whole scheme.
Yeah, he
this whole
understands very
project.
well.
That's wonderful. How old is he?
He's 11.
He's 11. Wow. A little boy who had to grow up fast, eh?
Yes. But things today that now he knows what that world is. So he'll understand when he goes out there and he sees someone acting the same way, he won't.
Judge.
Exactly. Because that's not what I teach my kids. Don't judge people if you don't want to be judged.
Well, like I said, you're a better woman than me. Now, Soleil is, he's progressed a lot.
Definitely.
He may not make it to be a service dog. He may not.
That I don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
No.
But you're still keeping on trying.
Oh, yeah.
And in the meantime, because you're doing so much of the work yourself, you don't need to pay the huge amounts of money in addition to what you've already paid to this organization. That didn't deliver what it was supposed to. Do you see yourself down the road becoming a trainer for service dogs? Is this-
Definitely. I would love it. I would love it.
Okay.
Definitely, for sure.
And do you, how should I put it? Do you see Miranda possibly learning to train a dog in her own way?
That I don't know. She's a little bit too young, but I did foster a dog, and she was a handful, but you could see she was lovable in her kooky way. I don't know. There's something about
Are you talking
her.
about the dog or Miranda?
No, the dog.
Okay.
And my kids loved her so much, and but it's just, I don't know. This dog was just, it was different. It needed work, but
Not all dogs are cut out to be service dogs. No,
but-
they go through a very rigorous process of
Yeah.
selecting them, and
but my kids did spend a lot of time with
yeah.
her as well. So it was great to see the
Yeah.
bond, and the two of them playing, the two dogs playing, and the kids playing with the dogs. It was pure chaos at home, but that's okay.
Well, yes,
That's what it is, right?
It's fun chaos, isn't
Exactly.
it? It's fun
Exactly.
chaos.
It's memories. I call those memories.
Yeah.
Definitely, for sure.
Now, I know that not everybody in the world believes in the concept of service dogs, and some believe that a service dog is just a glorified pet.
There's a lot of training involved.
There's a lot of training.
Definitely.
And what
pa-
makes the difference between a glorified pet, which you can love and cuddle and hug, and a service dog?
Good question.
They recognize signs of distress,
Yes.
and they what else? I guess some service dogs are meant to go out to
Yeah.
school and shopping, and some service dogs are stay-at-home service dogs, I suppose.
Yes. This one's a stay-home service dog right now.
And walk down the street service dog,
Yes,
right?
in stores. Even going to the store with my daughter, it's definitely a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because when she wants to go a certain way to get, she wants something, and she, like I said, she holds on to him, and it keeps her grounded. He does know a few commands, and keep on working on those commands, like halt, trying to get him to understand, to stop when I say halt.
Yes.
And he does it, and I still reinforce it. This training still continues on, even if he knows that command. As they say, if you don't learn it, continue learning it, you lose it.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's a constant training.
Constant. Constant.
Definitely. But I really feel like he could be certified, for sure.
Well,
For the amount of time that I work with him, and what a huge difference from the time he came back to now. And I really believe that he will be certified.
well, I certainly hope so. Either way, he's taught you a lot, and it's
Yes.
like, oh, I don't
It's
know.
a whole different world.
It's
Because
a
it's
whole
not a
different
pet,
world.
right? It's like you said, it's deep pressure, it's working. It's allowed to go into the public's eye. Like it could go to the stores and pet cannot.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of training.
It's like that old story, that old conundrum of, is it important to have a university degree or not? Because sometimes you go to the University of Life
Yeah.
and you learn a lot more than you do when you go into an institution, but somehow there's more value if there's a paper.
Yes. But it's also the experience.
The experience.
And right now, this is what I'm doing, is learning as I go. And if I get stuck, I ask people in the organization for support, for
Right.
training and stuff like that. And it's awesome.
In your research, did you ever find an organization in the Ottawa area that specializes in training autism service dogs?
When I did my search, it's very difficult. It was very difficult in
To
Ottawa.
find one?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. At that time, I didn't find it.
okay. Now, I'm curious about this, and simply because with all of the discussions around provincial funding for autism right now, and of course the backlash from families who heard about the cuts that were proposed, and now the government has backtracked and added some additional funds. We don't know how those funds are going to be used yet, but you have had access to some of those programs.
Yes.
And would you say that this should be a component?
Yes, it should.
Okay.
It really should.
It does provide something that none of those others provides?
Well, also the thing is, yes, there's therapy. There is also the waiting list. It is very long to wait for a specific, like it could be like therapy, it could be working with.
It's
kind
up
of-
to a year's
it-
wait, right?
It could
I
be a long,
understand.
it all depends what
Yeah.
you're waiting for the support you need for the child. Again,
Okay.
autism is different spectrum, right? So you have to
Right.
go to what the child needs. But yeah, I believe that the organization should help cover for service dogs for children with autism, because I have seen a huge difference in my daughter since he's becoming, definitely more to what he was before when he came back, definitely
Right.
for sure. So I do see the benefit of having a service dog for my daughter, because
Okay.
he does feel more like what's going on. Like I've noticed if she's quiet or a little bit getting fussy, I see him doing it to go see my daughter,
Okay.
to when she's whining and stuff, like he'll actually go to her.
So he may bring her something that neither you nor she realizes necessarily that she needs.
Dogs will feel it before sometimes even
Dogs
happens.
will feel it before you do.
Yeah.
So there
They
is and of course, even with normal pets, families often may be at each other's throats or going through a difficult time, but the family pet brings them together.
He's
It's a source
also
of communication.
he's also obviously, when he doesn't have his vest on, he is a pet. He is a pet. He's regardless of being a service dog in training, he's still part of the family for sure.
Okay.
And it means a lot to me and the kids to have Soleil in our home. It was, like I said, it was a very long wait. It was disappointing when he came back. Very
Not what you expected.
definitely, and he was off the leash, and he was very fidgety. And my son says, "Mom, I want to see Soleil." It's like, right now, not a good time right now. He's he's not on the leash right now. He can just take off right now.
Yeah.
So I told him, just wait. And, it's hard to say that to my kids because they've been waiting 11 months for this dog to come back, and it did not come back what he was supposed to be.
No. He shouldn't have been just dropped off at your door. He should have come with some
and
introduction and training. So there we go. Lynn, thank you for sharing that story, because I think it's essential. And just by chance, by the time this video airs, the consultations will be over, but the government will still be in the process of deciding how to allocate the funds, and hopefully there will be people who will bring to their attention the benefits of service dogs.
Definitely.
But I won't say even more than that, but I also want to highlight that in addition to the benefits of service dogs for a child with autism, so often we overlook the families of the children with autism and their needs and their challenges and their despair and their sense of hopelessness. Even for someone as strong and positive as you, there are times when it must become overwhelming. So what progress you've made with this little thing is so self-affirming for you. I'm just so happy. And I don't know if it requires a special person like you to have been able to rise to the challenge, but the fact that you did rise to the challenge means someone else can do it too.
Yes.
Maybe not everyone.
Definitely, for sure.
But someone else can.
But I did it for my daughter.
And you did it
I
for
love
your
a
daughter.
challenge. I
You
really
love a
love a challenge.
And I have a feeling this isn't the end of the story.
Yeah.
I think there are going to be more Soleils trained and more
Definitely.
children
And
than Miranda benefiting.
Definitely, if I would be doing this a year and a half ago, there's no way he would be sitting there right now. He would be everywhere.
No.
And that's a huge
Right.
step that he's actually not moving for
Absolutely.
a period of time. So that's awesome. And he looks happy. He seems to be okay with the environment, so that's great.
So I know, because he's wearing a vest, that I'm not allowed to touch him and hug him, but would you please touch him and hug him and tell him what a good boy he's been? Hasn't he been wonderful?
Good
He's
boy.
been sitting here so quietly.
He has. And that's
Thank you,
amazing.
Lynn.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Soleil. Thank you. You're a good boy. Yes, you are.
Oh, stop.
All right. I guess you didn't like my tone of voice.
No.
And for all of you watching, thank you so much for paying attention to this wonderful story. And see you next week. Bye for now.